T-Raw in the morning. We got Rosenberg, Laura Styles on assignment, and one of the legends in this hip-hop game, Jonathan Mannion. Give it up.
Thank you.
Now, you're like, wait, you're watching, you listen, you may have heard the name. He doesn't rap, he doesn't make music, but he takes amazing photography. And one of his early projects that set it off for him was the Reasonable Doubt photo shoot.
Hello.
With Biggs, Dame, Jay. Those guys in suits with the brim hats and the whole Reasonable Doubt. I guess how would you describe it, man? It's kind of like the whole
gangster.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is you set the tone for the album visually.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there were thoughts, I think. So originally, I don't know whether this is common knowledge. I gotta speak about it constantly. The album was originally called Heir to the Throne.
Right.
And then, I think that there was a thought that he felt that was too presumptuous, that he wanted the people to discover him and to decide whether he was, in fact, the next king, So he switched the idea and came up with Reasonable Doubt to allow there to be, that questioning and that conversation amongst the public. And I think that there was a thought to do kind of what was common at the time, which was like, the Versace linen, that kind of stuff, the bright color, silky, smooth kind of stuff that he was touching. But I said, no, man, let's switch it up. Let's claim Brooklyn. Let's claim something that's timeless forever, like proper style, like mob bosses, because it was such a parallel with these sort of underworlds and things that he was speaking about in lyrics. So I said, come style, come sharp with scarves and silk and this, and let's present something that still was sort of conceptual, yet it still gave him the ability to clean up and polish up.
So, all right, so let's start at the beginning. They call you, you call them. How does your name even get put in the conversation for this opportunity?
There was a woman that was working there named KB Payne, who was doing press and publicity, who I'd worked with prior. There was a company called Blow Up Media Relations, and they were dealing with the Fugees, Shannon Briggs, Donnell Jones, a handful of people. And they say, Lauren's performing tonight with the Fugees, and, why don't you go take some snaps? So, I was turning in quality work to them. So when she went over to Rockefeller, she said, look, Jay's about to drop this album. Get in here. Dame is about the money. Jay's about creative. Biggs is the engine of the machine. Kind of use that appropriately. Bring your book, bring your A game, and see if you can seal it. So went in, spoke to Jay-Z about the creative. And, I think he was impressed that I had as many references as I did, and that I really could articulate the ideas of what I wanted for him. From that point, then I went and saw Dame, and he's like, flip 2 pages of the book, yeah, whatever, cool. How much are you gonna charge me? I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it for $300 less than your lowest bid. As a 25-year-old kid, I didn't have a framework of well, the usage needs to be this, and then there's a fee.
How bad
plus.
did you want this gig, though?
Yeah, I knew this was the one.
Well, did you realize? That's the thing I was going to ask. How big of a deal did it seem like at the time? Because Reasonable Doubt was not Illmatic. I mean, the city was not waiting on oh my God, we need this.
Yeah,
it was those who knew kind of knew.
Yeah.
So so how did you receive it?
Yeah, I went into the Rockefeller offices, and certainly there was a vibe and an energy that was palpable. From that point, I heard Dead Presidents, both versions that they had going on a cassette. They were like, yeah, take this home, marinate on it, and really hearing that single, and then obviously knowing his attachment to jazz. I did college radio in Ohio, so everything that was coming in, I was aware. So I was a jazz fan. Jazzo fan.
Were you aware, were you in the clubs in New York City at that time aware of the money that was being spent on bottles and how they was buying out the bars and just the whole Rockefeller movement? Did you?
Yeah, I had no real total understanding of that until just afterwards. You know what I mean? That
they was really out here with big money moving around.
Yeah, they were moving. Even on the shoot, they came with a stack of cash that I didn't have any kind of concept of what that was. I was a kid from Ohio. I came to accept a position with Richard Avedon, work with the great shooters and stuff. But I was making $289 a week. You know what I mean? So all that was just a foreign kind of concept. I knew what was being spoken about, but the fact that it actually paralleled the lifestyle truly, I only found out afterwards.
And so you sit with Dame, he flips through. Did you ever meet with Biggs at that time?
No, I didn't. I think it was just he might have been in the office and shook his hand hey, this is Biggs.
And Jay on the creative side, how was that work? Was he completely open to ideas? For people listening to us watching this right now that have never corresponded with somebody at this stage in their career, and I think it's important to articulate because I think it's part of Jay's success, but I'll let you tell it. What was he like when it came to sharing ideas?
You know, he's always been really receptive and very trusting. You know, certainly I had a 10-year relationship with him, and all of it, I think, really keyed on this one interaction with him was the execution of Reasonable Doubt. You know, the fact that for Heir to the Throne came with like pages of handwritten notes, references of like royalty and crests and all that stuff when it was that idea, and then was able to overnight flip an idea around and have like, you know, photo book references. There's a book called Evidence by Luc Sante, and it's old police photos from like 1914 to 1918. So like he knew that I was coming from a different place than like a kid who had just picked up a camera. You know, oh, my dad had one, and I just started snapping what was around me. Like I'm a formally trained artist, man, throughout my entire life. So I think that, you know, my ability to articulate my ideas as well as the passion, and he could see that I really wanted it. The work that I showed him was also quality. I was shooting Heavy D and D'Angelo and like the people that were on at that moment. Granted, not for albums, but still a quality execution. So, you know, we were in the same kind of mindset too. It's like, you know, he's 26 years old, I'm 25. He was born December 4th, I'm born December 3rd. Like there are like rhythms and similarities that I have seen throughout sort of the journey that I'm like, wow, yeah, that's what I would have said or done or whatever, or just clever delivery. Like I always appreciated him, and I think that that's something that he sensed from me, that it was a genuine respect and an admiration for his skill set.
Did you, and so you pitching this idea, you had only heard Dead Presidents. That was it.
That's it. But that's all you need to hear. I mean, that was a monster.
Right.
And then the fact that there was kind of a second version that I heard was, I mean, it's just nuts, you know? It's just, it just gave me the confidence to say, okay, look, this is where I'm gonna go properly, like put all my chips in and do whatever it takes to make this thing happen. Hence my sort of saying 300 less than your lowest bid. You know, if it was someone was doing it for free, I was gonna pay him 300 to do it, you know? And again, small money. He was like, yo, what does that fucking mean to me? I don't even know what that is, dog. You know, like the Harlem swag, Dame bravado, you know? I was like, it just means that I want to do the job, you know? Let me do what I want to do. Jay likes the creative. Let it happen. Let it rock.
Did you do anything else besides the album? Was it just the album shoot and that's that?
So for Reasonable Doubt, obviously it was the album, but I had shot him prior to meeting, and I think that was another kind of tie-in of like the understanding that there was, you know, a synergy between us. You know, I shot him for the cover of Stress magazine. It was a really humble, very simple shoot that, you know, we just kind of went around the offices down on John Street in this little back alley and smoke coming up from the manhole covers and that kind of stuff. You know, so that gave us an understanding. And then once Reasonable Doubt was achieved, you know, it was time for In My Lifetime Volume 1. And he called up. He's just like, it's time to do it again. And then we did it for Volume 2. And then The Dynasty. And then The Blueprint. And then, you know, everything. A decade.
In the Reasonable Doubt, and tonight at, what's the name of the location? Is it it's private, or are we talking about?
It's a private event, you know, like those, you know, what's difficult is I really want to share it with everybody. You know, obviously there's parameters within this gallery of like.
But tonight you will show visuals from this photo shoot, and it's focused on everything visually around Reasonable Doubt tonight. It's the 20-year anniversary of the release of this project. How can, if I can't experience this and I can't be a part of it, where can people go experience this stuff after tonight?
I mean, we're definitely going to shoot some videos of who's in the building tonight. There's going to be some photos. You know, my goal and my idea is to take it from tonight, which is sort of, I guess, a higher end execution, but still, like, you know, I invited 5 kids off the street last night just because their passion was there. Like, cool, RSVP and and gave them the address, and that was that. You know, I want it to be for the people who really feel this project, you know, and I think that this album's so beautifully kind of bridges 2 worlds, you know, and if you look at like 20 years ahead of people that appreciate it, looking back at this young boy sort of starting his journey, and then the people that like really sort of have grown with him, and it's, man, it covers like 40 years worth of people, man, and I'd love to have that full demographic present, you know.
Did they own these suits?
They did. They bought the suits. I actually spoke to Biggs. I did a little Vice piece or whatever.
Yeah,
and
I saw a clip of that.
Yeah. It was
Vice did a great job with that.
I still haven't seen it, man. So I'll trust you, man.
Yeah, no,
you
they
have,
did a
you have
great
good
job.
judgment, man.
They had a great job.
If nothing else,
I have nothing else. Other than good
you have good
judgment.
judgment, but that's about it.
But they did own these suits. These weren't
They
just
did.
some borrowed joints.
No, sorry. He went to a store and they each bought $5,000 suits. Like these were properly crafted somewhere uptown in the 70s ish is what he said. He's like, yeah, we all just dropped like $5K on suits and we were all feeling sharp. They showed up at my apartment on 72nd and Riverside. So Jay-Z is sitting in like my crazy bachelor pad with, 2 other kids that I graduated college with. Like it was a madhouse, and they're just sitting in the living room. And then we went up to the roof, shot there, and then the rest of it was shot down by the West Side Highway.
So you guys didn't even have money to go get like a proper studio the way he would do it today. There was no
Absolutely.
budget for all that.
It wasn't that there was no budget. I'm sure I could have pushed for it if I actually really understood sort of what that meant. For me, it's sort of like I was just trying to keep my word to say, look, 300 less than the lowest bid and whatever that was going to be.
Got it.
I was like, look.
So you
I'm
wasn't
just
trying to
gonna
add
execute.
expenses to the.
I made them pay for like processing, so the film processing and then the printing and whatever they want, because there's no way for me to understand what they might need, So, again, it's like I had some sensibilities. Obviously, I learned from the greatest, I learned from the guy who's shooting like the Pirelli calendars for $100,000 a day, shooting like, Versace campaigns and Naomi Campbell naked rolling around in the sand. Like this is me as a 24-year-old kid, like picking Naomi Campbell butt ass naked up off the ground. Like not a bad way to kick off.
No.
How I'm just looking at the photos right now, the ones that were on the album. Jay's expression in the photos, he's they're all giving you that, one expression. Like they were focused on this one idea for this album. Was that your directive, or they already had a vision? Like it was like, yo, we want to look like this. We're gonna stand like this.
No.
We're gonna.
Yeah, they were really trusting. The full like posturing and positioning, was absolutely guided by me. There was no lights. I shot basically in the solarium of my building, this northern light kind of thing, and I still went through like a full range of emotions though. Like, and this is what's beautiful about sharing this with the world tonight is like there are images of Jay like laughing his head off.
Right.
There's the camaraderie that really existed. There's Dame and Biggs, Jay and Biggs laughing at Dame because of this little like 32 like caliber little pea shooter, which is what they were calling it.
Right.
Is like, so there was a real energy and a real connection with those guys at that time.
But obviously for the energy and the tone of the album, those aren't going to be used. But tonight, and as you unveil kind of the rest of these photos, people will get to see more of that energy.
100%. Yeah. No, absolutely. And what's interesting is there are 10 traditional photos that you sort of are outtakes. Like, there's a whole color portion of the session that's never really been seen. So it's like share the color stuff for the certain reason. But then I went to London to a gallery called Jealous Gallery, and we did a bunch of printmaking. So it's like sort of taking this thing and now repurposing and making it fresh. And the quickest way to say it is like think Warhol. Like the Elvis and the repeating. Like I really wanted to explore the process, push it, come up with things that were a little more conceptual. And man, I had a blast doing that. I was in London for 48 hours. We did a pop-up gallery over there that shared a couple of the pieces, but there's 12 pieces that are just exciting, man, and just different and feel.
Was Jay on time?
Jay was absolutely.
Was he on time? What about Dame? Was Dame on time for the shoot?
They were all on time. Yeah, they all showed up together.
Showed up on time.
Showed
Easy
up
to
on
work
time.
with.
And he's always been easy to work with, man. It's like, I think that there was always an understanding of I don't know, man, just like professionalism and presence. Like he's a smart guy. Like,
well, the reason I bring that
ultimately.
up is people are probably like, of course they were on time. Why would you even say that? Well, because those of us that work in hip hop know that there are people who are successful in this game, who are reliable, on time, do what they say they're gonna do.
Correct.
Can articulate their ideas clearly, and they stick to those ideas in the plan. And then there's some people, and I'm sure this is in the industry, that don't make it very far because they can't do any of those things.
Yeah, sidetracked for sure. Yeah, he's always been. I mean, look, even in like extreme circumstances, and I've had literally timed 12-minute photo shoots with Jay-Z. He's like, okay, go. It's like, what? All right, cool, man. Give me film as fast as possible. And it was like when he, I I think he went like 5 times platinum or whatever. It's like a Billboard ad, and it was just him and a Yankees kind of thing. He's like, look, I got 12 minutes. I'm a busy guy. I was like, great. All I need is like 6. So, you know, it's like that.
Go.
You know, after you work with somebody for that amount of time, there's an incredible trust that's built up, and you don't have to worry about like taking that guard down in the process of kind of getting to the soul of somebody. It's like, cool, I trust you. You execute. You deliver. I look great. I'm happy. Let's dance again. Let's do it. You know?
Tell people while we have you here some of the other great stuff that this and other things led to for you.
You know, with this kickoff, I think that there was an understanding that I was doing things a little different than sort of what was happening at the time. You know, everybody that I was sort of studying around that time was just like throwing up a backdrop, stand in front of the blue one and then the brown one and the gray one. Like, all right, cool. Like, I wanted it to be about storytelling, to push the concepts a little bit more. So once people had an understanding, like, okay, this guy executed. Who did that? Oh, that's Jonathan Mannion, did Reasonable Doubt? Great. Let's get him to shoot DMX. You know, it's like DMX, It's Dark and Hell is Hot. And then him with the 2 dogs in Yonkers. You know, which then, you know, I feel like once somebody actually has an experience with me and sees how much of my soul and passion and art that I put into my work, like, I'm surprised when people go elsewhere to work with someone else.
Right, because you take it it's so personal for you and you put so much into it.
Like, if you have the opportunity to drive a Bentley and it's really smooth and comfy, like, okay.
Like,
you want to drive
back to this.
Nah, we're going to drive
88 Fiat.
a Honda. Yeah, that's
so what else? I mean, let name drop a little bit.
Sure.
Come on, man.
So, you know.
Some of these cats don't know. Let them know.
Hundreds of millions of people have seen my work. I've done over 300 album covers. 3 for Eminem, 4 for The Game, 4 Ludacris. Like, I mean, every single person basically except for Big L and Pac. So Biggie, Nas, Godson.
What did you do for Biggie?
Big, I shot at the Palladium in '95 at his platinum party, and it's sort of a really sort of critical and pivotal kind of image in his career of just him rocking dead center of this frame and the frenzy that surrounded him. And it really, what's interesting is, like, obviously now this is kind of commonplace. People are let in through Snapchat and social media. Like, immediately it's the shot heard around the world. Like, you know, you're in Japan, like, oh, what happened at that party? Snapchat, oh, that went down, cool.
Not
it was
what
more
it was
special.
Then. Oh,
like, there was 2 of us on stage, 3 of us maybe documenting these important moments with consistency. And I think that that's what kind of separated me from the pack, is that I was omnipresent at that time. You know, it's like, all right, cool, something's happening at SO's with Ill Out Scratch, I'm there. Cool, Biggie's performing with Faith and somebody over at Latin Quarter, cool, I'm going. You know, it's like, I really chased it, and because this was sort of my passion. The beauty was then fusing, when I decided to stop assisting after like 3-4 years, you know, to just shoot with Jay-Z Reasonable Doubt being sort of that like marked moment. It was, you know, the way that my personal work became my professional career, you know, and still within hip hop and supporting the culture was, you know, was the most exciting thing. It's like, pick something you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
Of course.
You know,
I was scrolling through, you know, you could Google his name, Jonathan Mannion.
Oh, so you give me some, because he's being too modest. So, Ebro, thanks.
Well, because some of it is albums and some of it is just art pieces and photo shoots for magazines. Because obviously in the mid-'90s when Mannion was shooting, this was at a time when Vibe magazine, The Source, and magazines had bread to go, you know what, we're going to put a proper photo shoot together.
Right, of course.
You know what I mean? So that famous Outkast picture in front of the flag. Right, like that.
Fader.
Was that for the Fader? Okay.
Yeah, that's Fader. I did the first like 5 covers for the Fader for Rob and John, and those guys were.
I mean, obviously.
it gave me full trust. They're like, "Yeah, we want to make a magazine. We don't know how to do it." I was like, "All right, great. Just leave it to me." And it was like shooting Funk Flex, first cover, and then it was M, and then it was the 3 Kings with, you know, Zach from Rage Against the Machine.
I have that framed.
Yeah, man.
I remember that in your office. You said right.
I have here the games. Did you do the game?
You said the game.
So yeah, he and I have had a run that's, you know, probably about a dozen years. But I did his first album
when he's sitting on the Daytons. When he's sitting on the Daytons, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see here more Jay. There's RZA. There's LeBron. There's Pharrell. There's Mos Def.
Mos Def album or no?
I never did a Mos Def album. I did 2 covers for the Fader. Yeah, that was Fader as well.
Fader. Let's see what else.
But that cat's incredible to work with. I mean, I've shot him probably maybe 5 or 6 times, like with different sort of magazines.
May stand about a phone booth for Complex. That's you.
Yeah, but it wasn't for Complex originally. I think it was for another magazine. But yeah, that was a moment in Harlem. I was like, let's just go to you know, my goal was always to kind of like go to the roots and the truth of people, you know? So like I could sit you on some steps and it'll look cool, but like, does it really mean something to you? I think adding the meaning and allowing people to feel that moment and like walk down memory lane, I think was always important to me.
You did the Pun album, right?
I did
the
Endangered
promo?
Species.
Oh, you did Endangered Species.
With the wings behind.
Yeah. But did you shoot him otherwise?
Yeah, I shot him many times. I did the Terror Squad album.
Cover?
The cover.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
With the shovel and the tombstone leaned over. Yeah, man. A handful of other things, just different clubs, like some club at Missouri.
Bernie Mac.
Oh,
that's a dope one.
Legend, right?
Yeah, like these are real gifts, man. You know, it's like it's why I give my all at every single moment. You just never know when somebody is gonna leave us too soon. And I think it's been sort of the most beautiful stuff that I've created, like Aaliyah's last photo shoot. It's I Miss You album, I think it was called.
Right.
You know, she was everything that people speak about. She was an angel. She had a light that was different. Her team was beautiful. You know, we did 10 shots probably in about 5 hours. So like she was there to work and get it done. But like, man, such class. It's again, an honor for me to say that I caught her at the most developed version of her.
Facts.
You know? And I've done it with a lot of people, like the Afeni Shakur one that just happened.
All right.
You know, like that. It's always beautiful when you see the images now on social media just come up, and it's a consistency because there is such an authenticity to the work that I've created. Whether it's a big joyful smile from Chris Lighty or something like totally engaging that, you know, like this Afeni Shakur one. You know, it's like,
when was the Afeni Shakur one?
Well, when she passed away, around Mother's Day.
Right. But when was the shoot from?
I shot her for the cover of XXL. This was probably a good 7 years ago. But yeah, you know, it's been a beautiful run, man. To think about 20 years of Reasonable Doubt. Like at the same time, I'm also celebrating like Jonathan Mannion's 20 year of shooting. You know what I mean? Like he was one of the people that I shot, which is, I mean, to say that I shot him and had a 10-year career with him, it's fantastic. Okay, now you add in 150 other people that have made significant contributions to culture. And then those equally parallel visuals that when you close your eyes and think of a picture of DMX, I guarantee it's mine. It's in the blood, right? Or with the dogs or the thing, or you know what I mean? Like, that's exciting. Like, that was always what I went for, is like the definitive photo of that person in that moment that would never be the same again. Like, that's what I love about photography, is that it captures that moment and it changes 10 minutes later. Like, there's no history repeating itself exactly. It's just themes.
Early Kendrick Lamar?
Early Kendrick, yeah. That was an XXL cover. I shot the entire TDE family and their dog walkers and doctors, neighbors, brothers, cousins. Like, I shot like 75 shots. But it was amazing. It was like SZA, you know, like on her sort of entry point in, like, these are all these moments, you know, and you build this dialogue and a rapport with people to be able to go do it again and build, you know, it's like when friends pick up, like good friends, like I always try and engage on that kind of personal level, you know, like I'm there to do a job, I do it very well, but how I am, you know, as a human being is how I shoot. You know, so the experience tends to be a good one for the most part.
I've been lucky enough to be photographed by you several times.
Because you're famous. And
no,
awesome
it was someone else's thing, and I just happened to be there, and you were taking photos.
Yeah.
Stop trying to make it into something it's not.
Cut it out.
But it's very easy atmosphere. The music's playing, and you know, boom, you jump in, he just grabs you in your element. It's great. But was it like that when you? Because you shot Kanye West. What's that like? Because, you know, you hear the stories of Kanye having his own vision and changing in the middle of things. And what's that like?
Yeah. First time I shot Kanye was like for the Rockefeller whole family shoot. It was for The Source. And it was sort of when that whole Cameron infusion was kind of happening. And you know, things were a little crazy. But again, it's like I shot all of Rockefeller, the extended family, similar to the TDE experience. It was like the dog walker and the thing, the neighbor and the cousin and the baby mama and everybody. So he was trying to, like, he was really figuring out who he was. He knew that he had some gift, and when he had his little blowout and stuff like that, and you know, he had the Chi-Town belt on and, you know, fist in the air. He was just on some like, I'm gonna find my legs and figure out what this is about.
That was Louis Vuitton Don Kanye.
Mm-hmm. That was before that.
That was right.
That was like, you know, he might have started to claim that, but
so he
Louis
was still
Vuitton
wearing
Don,
what, polo rugbies or something?
Yeah, probably, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so when I shot him, next, it was for The Fader. It was his first ever cover. It was
okay.
2003. I know because it was the year that I got my studio. That was the first shoot ever at Mannion Studios, which was in Gramercy Park for 10 years until they sold the building, gentrification, 18 floors of condos go up, right? He and I, you know, like there wasn't a real deep idea. You know, we just sort of like freestyled back and forth, and it was very interesting because you could see that there was ideas and he wanted to like let them loose and would sort of like blurt them out and then kind of stop and wait for the reaction. Like, all right, cool, let's do it. Like for me on my set, I know I'm number one on the set in making it happen, but I'm always going to be number two because I just want, you know, once you're good, I'm happy, I'm chilling, you know, and that's what it was. It was sort of like, great, let's try it. Let's go to the roof. He's like, cool, let's go to the roof. Okay, I'm going to take a call. You know, and he would just like float off and then kind of come back. But, you know, he was sort of hard to read, but very accommodating and with it. But I just think that there are so many thoughts that are happening at one time for him.
That capturing one thought has to be complicated because he has a million thoughts.
I've always seen that, and I think that he's always been the same. It's been beautiful to see him sort of mature and all of these ideas manifest, even the mad, crazy, insane ones of shutting down Madison Square Garden, fashion show. Like, yeah, that's just really him. That's always been him, I think, you know, but now he has the ability to execute. And I really do feel him, even the rants. You know, it's like people on the top still want to be higher and to create and do more. So it's not like he's not miserable. He's laughing, dude. That guy's got an amazing life, you know, but it's...
And he's a troll, and he laughs at everybody's responses to his trolling and does things and then kicks back and just kind of goes...
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got, you know, 2 beautiful kids, beautiful wife, chilling, anything that you could possibly want. You can never spend that money in your lifetime. Like,
well, he claims he spent all of his.
Right. Somehow he spent it all. But now with this new Adidas stuff, he's doing just fine.
His name is Jonathan Mannion. He was the photographer for the classic Reasonable Doubt album for Hove. Everyone is in hip-hop watching and celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the album.
Even though a lot of y'all weren't really about that album when it came out, but it's cool.
Yo, the revisionist history on that album is crazy,
Ebro, I did Saturday when everyone was posting, I was like, hey, I'd like to send a salute out to myself as I bought the album the week it came out, and I can say that without question, I am among the very few people tweeting about this who actually did that.
It sold, what, 150,000 copies the first week or something like that?
I don't think it sold that much.
Prophecy on my first joint.
If that number's that big, then it really did well in New York. Outside of New York, Jay-Z was not a big name when that album came out.
In fact,
Dead Presidents was underground. That was an underground late-night mix show record. You'd see the video on Rap City, but that was not like, no one in my circle, we were all into rap, were like, yo, Jay-Z?
Heard that.
Me and my other DJ friend bought the album, but like not anyone else I knew.
But I think the people that got behind this album, man, I mean, even the people, look, my visuals, I was sort of an unknown, you know what I mean? But I was chosen wisely because of what I brought to the table. But, I mean, you look at Clark Kent, you know, Primo, the people that really got behind this
thing.
It
was some strong people.
You know, it's like, yo, we chose him in some ways. Like, he obviously chose us at the same time, but we wanted to elevate what we believe to be a really, truly strong and pure voice.
That's a really good point to put in there, though, is that regardless of how much the public knew at the time, artists obviously knew.
Yeah, we knew.
And people in the streets knew. And they knew he was a real guy, and he was a smart guy, and he was a talented guy. And
big time.
Now everyone else knows.
Yeah.
Yo, it's always good to see you, sir.
Great to see you. Thank you for having me.
Give it up for Jonathan Mannion on the program, Ebro in the morning.